Welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3 HR Advisors, the podcast that keeps HR pros, business leaders, and operations teams ahead of the curve. We're sponsored by our friends at WorkHuman, and my name is Steve Boese. Student loans in America, new rules and real consequences. Today we're examining how changes in student loan repayment rules affect workers, companies, and the U.S. economy. It's a new chapter for millions of Americans with student loans and for the economy at large. After several years of pauses, forgiveness programs, and political tug-of-war, student loan repayment is back in full force. In the reality, it's hitting pretty hard. We've entered a moment of real consequence for borrowers. Since early 2025, federal loan payments and credit reporting have fully resumed, and the temporary protections put in place during the pandemic and extended by the Biden administration, things like paused interest accruals, suspended collections, and credit score shielding, have all now expired. The result is a financial landscape where many borrowers are suddenly vulnerable, and for some, dangerously so. Let's set the context. Right now, over 42 million Americans hold federal student loan debt, totaling around $1.8 trillion. That's about 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. The average borrower owes roughly $37,000 to $39,000. And while repayment has technically resumed, millions are struggling to keep up. Recent reports show that over 6 million borrowers are already more than 90 days behind on their loans. And of those, about 2 million are at risk of having their wages garnished by this summer. That means their paychecks could shrink without warning, and their tax refunds may be intercepted as well. And for many Americans, particularly those in lower wage or early career jobs, these financial hits could be devastating. So how did we get here? Let's take a step back. Under President Biden, his administration pursued a range of targeted forgiveness efforts. While the Supreme Court struck down his plan for sweeping one-time cancellations, Biden's team still managed to erase about $190 billion in student loan debts through narrower, legally sound measures. That included forgiveness for longtime borrowers, people with permanent disabilities, those working in public service, and borrowers who were defrauded by their schools. The White House also introduced the SAVE plan, a reworked income-driven repayment option that capped payments at 5% of discretionary income and forgave balances faster. Contrast that with the new approach under President Trump. Since returning to office in 2025, the Trump administration has reversed course. Collections and enforcement are back on. Wage garnishments and tax refund seizures have resumed. And there are signals that the administration may soon roll back programs like SAVE or scale down forgiveness eligibility altogether. The administration's broader vision is clear: reduce the cost to taxpayers and push universities to share in these financial responsibilities. The new legislative package currently being shaped, dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill, seeks to tighten income-driven repayment rules, shorten forgiveness timelines, and even hold schools accountable when their students default on their loans. Supporters argue this is a much-needed reset after what they call excessive giveaways. Critics say it will push millions further into debt and financial distress. So what does this all mean for borrowers and for the broader workforce? The size and the scope of this challenge are enormous. Around 10 million people are in forbearance or deferment, and more than 6 million already behind on payments. Credit scores are beginning to fall, and some estimates suggest that nearly 9 million Americans could see their credit take a hit this year due to delinquency or default. And that affects everything from housing eligibility to car loans to job applications. For employers, especially those in industries relying on young, educated workers, this moment represents an inflection point. Financial stress is already one of the top causes of disengagement and turnover in the workplace, and student loan debt is a major driver of that stress. Employers who want to retain their talent and build trust can and should step up. And some leading organizations are already doing this. They're offering student loan repayment assistance, either monthly contributions towards loans or one-time bonuses earmarked for debt payoff. Others are providing access to financial counseling or helping employees navigate complex repayment options like income-driven repayment or public service loan forgiveness. And in some cases, companies are even working with payroll providers and loan servicers to automatically enroll delinquent borrowers into these income-driven repayment plans, avoiding default and stabilizing their financial future. And beyond that, the IRS has approved a tax-advantaged approach that allows employers to make student loan payments on behalf of employees through education assistance programs. This could be a game changer, especially if more legislation expands or solidifies these options in the coming months. Bigger question is, what's next? Over the next 1 to 2 years, we're likely to see more aggressive student loan enforcement, especially from the Department of Education under Trump. Collections will grow, and borrowers will face fewer protections and more pressure. And new policy changes may make it harder for future students to access flexible repayment plans or loan forgiveness options. And that has a ripple effect across the entire economy. If borrowers spend more of their income servicing debt, they can spend less elsewhere on homes and cars and consumer goods. And if they fall into default, their credit suffers, their job mobility decreases, and their financial stress intensifies. And if millions of borrowers become newly cautious or cash strapped, we could see a pullback in household spending that leads to slower economic growth. And the irony, while tightening the screws may reduce taxpayer exposure in the short term, it could create a drag on the economy in the long term. The student loan debt crisis isn't just a higher ed issue, it's a labor market issue, a productivity issue, a talent retention issue, and a financial health issue. For business leaders, HR professionals, and workplace strategists, the takeaway is clear. We're not just observers of the student loan landscape, we're all participants in it. And supporting employees with student loan debt seems to be no longer just a nice-to-have benefit. For many companies, it's a business imperative. And in this new era of repayment and restraint, the companies that lead with empathy, creativity, and real support for employees should be the ones that thrive. That's all for today's Workplace Minute. If you want more on the future of work talent and tech, be sure to hit follow or subscribe and share this episode with a colleague who cares about getting the workplace right. And we will continue to follow this and all the important topics and trends in the world of work here on the HR Happy Hour Media Network. This has been Steve Boese for the Workplace Minute, powered by H3 HR Advisors.